149 consecutive starts. It's the longest by an active quarterback, and that we'll see in jeopardy. Of course, they do have the long week now, the mini bye. We'll find out if he's available to play in Pittsburgh against the Steelers on October 17th. But, just not Russell Wilson alone, but that whole team. I mean, that's a legion with no boom, that defense.
Zero boom.
450-plus total yards in 4 straight games. This is not the Seattle that we used to know.
Well, also, they got no pressure. They had 1 sack. So it seemed like Matthew Stafford can sit in the pocket and just pick you apart. Literally, he didn't play well in the first half, but Stafford played exceptionally well in the second half.
We have play calling in the first half.
And then here's the one thing. You know that the Rams are a pass-first team. One of the things we talked about them earlier in the season, no Cam Akers, how much that would hurt them. Well, when you look at what they did on the ground last night, that's the question you have for Seattle. They can beat you up on the ground. The Rams beat them up on the ground, and there's no pass rush. So Stafford could just stand there in the pocket and take his time.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people is concerned about the Rams' ability to run the football, but Sony Michel is not chopped liver. And I think when you look at him, he's a pro. He's a guy who's been in this league. He understands the position. And within this Rams offense, and it's a pretty dynamic offense all the way around when they start cooking, because you have to account for Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And now they add Deshaun Jackson to the mix, and Von Jefferson is coming along pretty good for a young receiver. So with a productive quarterback like Matthew Stafford, early on in the game, Matthew Stafford was struggling a little bit, made you think, oh, okay, well, maybe it's not what it is. And then he caught fire. Things started to kind of go their way a little bit. Things turned. I think this game would have been a little bit different had Russell Wilson finished, although Geno Smith played like a Geno Smith that the Jets thought they were getting once upon a time. But that defense, it just hasn't been the same since Earl Thomas and Sherm and Cam Chancellor and that whole group were together. And it's just like they keep trying to
replicate it,
repeat, wash, do it all over again, and it's not happening. Has Pete lost his fastball?
Well, or is it just it's not easy to rebuild something that was one of the great defenses of all time, right? Like it's not that simple to do.
Here's what I would say. And I would, as they say, push back on you in these situations. I've watched other organizations lose guys and continue to still have quality defenses when that particular side of the ball was the staple of the team for many years. I'd take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
They lose players. Troy Polamalu leaves, Ryan Clark leaves. You know, they go out, they get them, and they just recycle them, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. The Rams, for instance, they lose coordinators. They've lost a coordinator for 3 straight years, right?
They've all become head coaches, right?
And so I just don't know.
Well, Key, I would then ask you, if you're saying it's time potentially for change, who does that change start with? Like, who's the replacement for Pete Carroll?
Well, it's not time for a change. It's more of a, do we start to really dissect him and start really breaking it down, or does Ken Norton Jr. get all the blame because he's the defensive coordinator?
Well, they've allowed 450-plus total yards in 4 straight games, the longest streak in team history, according to ESPN Stats and Information Research, tied for the longest streak in NFL history. Key, that side of the ball is making the wrong kind of history when they used to make the right kind. And would you look at the offense and think, well, that's the problem? I don't think it is. It's the other side of the ball that clearly is a problem. Jamal Adams was somebody they brought in.
Well, he was getting work. He was getting work last night.
Somebody text me.
Worked.
Somebody text me that's a Jet fan last night, not Evan and not you, Alan.
Not me.
And they go to me. Well, how do those 2 ones look now?
You know, can't wait, baby.
Yep.
That part's true, but they have been. You could see that they were trying to bring in elements to rebuild that defense. But their issue is on the other side of the ball, and isn't that, again, when you look at Pete Carroll, I mean, that was their, like you said, staple. That was their calling card. That was their, here it is, their identity. That was their identity when they were great, when they were a Super Bowl contender, when they were winning a Super Bowl. That was their identity. They have, I guess maybe that's what the question is to ask, Key, has Pete Carroll and the Seahawks lost their identity?
That's what, and that would go with his fastball to me, because when I look at teams, and I'm just sitting here thinking in my head, I look at the Denver Broncos. They've had coaches come in, coaches go out, players leave. When they went to the Super Bowl, they completely dismantled the secondary. They got rid of Harris. They got rid of Talib. They got it just, and then they still maintain a certain integrity on the defensive side of the ball because they brought in other guys. And I know we give John Elway a lot of flack because of the quarterback position, but he's done other things in other areas on the team that gave them some sort of strength. And I don't know that Pete has done that with the defense. I know they've tried, but they haven't done it. Like, this is a whole new batch of secondary guys. I mean, when you think about it, they had Griffin there. He's no longer there anymore. You know, and then they bring in Jamal Adams. So it's kind of like they still trying to get it right, and they haven't been able to get it right. And you wonder, have he lost his fastball?
Just relies upon the offense to do so much, and that puts so much more pressure on Russell Wilson. And obviously, last night when he goes down, Geno Smith is trying to keep them in the game, but you just need him to be prolific. But he can't be prolific if you don't have a defense that keeps other teams off the field.
But then again, when you mention the offensive side of the ball, we complain that they didn't give Russell Wilson enough on the offensive side of the ball because they didn't have protection on the offensive line. They wasn't drafting guys and developing right, or they wasn't signing free agents because they couldn't, for whatever reason, figure out the money side of it. And so we talked about that, even though the offense seemed like it was going in the right direction because of the quarterback.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.